Hey guys, so the bad news is that I got a new microphone. I say it's bad news because you might notice that it still doesn't sound very good. And yeah, it's not exactly great when you want to record a video, especially when it's a video that you've kind of scripted and put a lot of effort into, and then your audio equipment's kind of shit. But then you can't really justify buying two microphones because the first one you bought is really, really shit. What is slightly good news is that I will have a better microphone when I'm back in uni where I have my desktop computer. The only trouble here is that I needed to get one for USB port because then I can plug it into my laptop. And I record these on my laptop because I am a boring person who didn't buy a proper camera with a tripod. One thing I did do is put my laptop on. I bet you if I do this, I'm going to completely fuck up audio and everything like that. Oh bugger, it's not even going to appear. Oh, I can't put it on there. It's a CD rack. Anyway, I put it on top of that because I was trying to test how it would look if I stood up. The reasons why I was doing that are my own business. Now, the other good news is that I will be responding to an Amazing Atheist video, and I do actually kind of really enjoy responding to Amazing Atheist videos, partly for a reason which I will explain towards the end of this video. But don't skip ahead because it's not that interesting and it'll be quite difficult to find out.
I prefer to talk about issues and topics larger than any one person, including myself.
So TJ claims that the reason he doesn't want to address these issues about his personal character is because he doesn't talk about himself and he mostly focuses on wider, more important political issues. But of course, this isn't true. TJ is very defensive about certain parts of his personal character, including when he addressed the banana in his butt controversy, and also the numerous times he's talked about how he feels about his tiny, tiny dick. There are channels that provide objective content where the actions or personality of the individual producing that content doesn't really matter. Examples of this could be Vsauce, CGB Grey, to some extent even Sargon of Akkad. They're mostly just talking. You don't see their faces. You don't really get much of their personality. You just get them telling you things. And this is something TJ really doesn't do. It is mostly the TJ show. It isn't here are my facts about the world, or here are the facts about the world. It's here is my opinion about a certain situation going on, and that is what the Amazing Atheist has always been. Because as I will get into, I was an Amazing Atheist fan, and at no point did I think that I was getting an objective idea of what the world looks like. I thought I was getting the Amazing Atheist opinion.
However, some criticisms of me have grown so incredibly tiresome.
TJ says that these criticisms of him have grown tiresome, meaning to imply that people have been saying them for too long. They just need to stop worrying about it, need to stop talking about it, and just let him get on with his life. Which would make sense, except for the fact that TJ has never addressed these criticisms. If I kept making the same mistake over and over again in my videos, then, and I never addressed it, then it would be pretty fucking ridiculous of me to then come on later on and address the criticism being constantly made and describe it as tiresome. Because if I haven't addressed this criticism, then that criticism can be presumed to be valid. Now you might say that TJ hasn't continuously made the same mistake. Well, first of all, the criticisms about what TJ has said regarding rape date back, or what specifically the things that they're referring to date back years. But secondly, every single time TJ gets on camera and acts as if he has some sort of moral integrity, he is basically begging the question, well, aren't you the arsehole who told that woman that she deserved to get raped?
Exemplifies a typical attack against me from the feminist perspective.
So I just decided to check with my dad, who isn't a feminist. He was wondering what I was doing because I have to talk quite loudly into this microphone. And I told him what I was doing, and I found out that it turns out you don't need to be a feminist to think that telling a woman she deserves to get raped is a bad thing that makes you an asshole.
There's a lot of people I hate that I can sometimes find myself agreeing with.
I should stress that I do agree with The Amazing Atheist a lot. No one is suggesting that in order to think The Amazing Atheist comments are inappropriate, you have to disagree with every single thing that he said. I was recently describing an Amazing Atheist video as one of my all-time favorite political videos on YouTube, and that is his video on Jerry Sandusky. I think he completely, he's very right. And honestly, since then, I went on a bit of a moment where I was watching a lot of the Amazing Atheist videos between 2010 and 2012, and thinking, yeah, he makes a lot of really good points, and I don't really have any issue with what he's saying. But at the same time, you can't always separate what's being produced from the person who's producing it, especially when you've got a channel that is as centered around character as the Amazing Atheist videos are.
Even though rape fantasies and simulated rape play are not really part of this discussion directly, I'd like to discuss them anyway because I think it's important that we explore these topics in light of the feminist hysteria of any mention of rape, no matter what the context.
Not only are they not part of this discussion directly, they're not even part of this discussion tangentially. The only connection between them is that rape fantasies have the word rape in them and aren't rape, whereas rape jokes have the word rape in them and aren't rape. That's the point at which the similarities end. And it's worth noting the majority of feminists don't have a problem with rape fantasies. And also, rape fantasies aren't even that clearly defined because the average heterosexual, and I guess lesbian, homosexual, like, um, relationship has elements of rapey fantasiness to them. From the moment that you enter into pinning each other down, tying each other up, covering each other's mouths, spanking, slapping, or even the use of just violent and abusive language, you're entering into that sort of region. Now, if you define rape roleplay as a woman or man explicitly saying no and the other partner proceeding anyway, then at that point you could argue that some feminists would take issue with this, but even though I don't think any feminists in the sphere that I'm in would argue that there is a problem with consenting adults doing that. Now, there are obviously feminists who think that all heterosexual sex is rape, so I'm not suggesting that there aren't feminists out there who probably have issue with some relatively tame things, never mind things like actually pretending to rape people. But they're the minority, and it has absolutely nothing to do with this discussion. And I think that TJ realizes this, and he's kind of being manipulative intentionally. He understands that the majority of people don't have a problem with rape fantasies. The majority of people understand that rape fantasies are between two people who both consent to be having this thing happen to them, and therefore it is enjoyable for both people. And he's trying to draw a parallel with rape jokes. And rape jokes, whether or not you want to argue that they're seriously harmful, the reality is that the reason why rape jokes are a problem is because they're not enjoyable for the people who hear them and are upset by them. No one is being upset or harmed, harmed however you want to apply that term, by rape fantasies. So it's not a good comparison. I think TJ is using this to try and force this idea that feminists are just these Puritans and these traditionalists who want to hold back his clever, edgy humour and just take everything way too seriously. And this is part of the narrative he's forming. And clearly he's talking out of his arse. This type of thinking is equivalent to justifying racist jokes by appealing to period-accurate portrayals of racism in a film about slavery. It just doesn't make any fucking sense.
To hysterically scream that jokes are wrong because they somehow encourage or endorse rape is to misunderstand the essence of humor.
Now, whereas before I claimed that TJ was intentionally misrepresenting the point, this time I think he is kind of unwittingly doing it, because he's claiming that he's being criticized for making rape jokes. But this isn't actually true, because most people admit that there's nothing, or there are conceivable rape jokes that can be funny. Steve Shives had a question about this in one of his You Had to Ask videos, and the example he gave, and it's one that I can't read. I tried to read it. I actually scripted this video, and then I realized it sounded a bit terrible. I can't read off the script. He read it, and I can read it without laughing. It's in reference to Bill Cosby. I like putting my dick where it don't belong. And he gives an example, which is a joke George Carlin says, which is, if you think rape can't be funny, just envision Porky Pig raping Elmer Fudd. And another good example of a rape joke, which I think is funny, is when you say, my favorite pickup line is, does this rag smell like chloroform to you? These are jokes, they're very clearly jokes, rather than just saying horrible things. The only real joke TJ's made in all the things that are being quoted. Oh, and by the way, I don't know if you're aware of everything that's being quoted that I'm responding to. If not, then you might have to watch the actual video. I can't be bothered to go through it all. I don't want to read it all again. But basically, the only joke he makes is the rape survivors joke, and that is possible as a joke. I think someone could make that joke, and it would work. Like if you set up the tone nicely, you could probably get away with making a joke about, well, rape isn't lethal. How can we be a rape survivor? I don't know. I think it's possible that the joke could be made in a funny way. And I think maybe within the context of the book it's kind of funny. I could just about grant that. However, the point is that jokes do have to be based on some degree of truth, and that's why the rape survivors joke is funny, because whether or not you think it's in poor taste, the reality is that survivor does imply a life-threatening situation, and rape itself is not fatal, particularly the majority of rapes. The majority of rapes are not attacks. The majority of rapes are just someone having sex with you and forcing you in some way that's not, violent. So there's truth to that, and you might think that's not tasteful, but it is what it is. And it's the same thing with George Carlin's joke. We like to say that rape can never be funny, or some people do. And George Carlin is basically saying that there are some ridiculous circumstances we can come up with, and even if they feature something absolutely horrific, they're still funny. That's kind of the point of the joke there. So this leaves me thinking, what is the point of TJ's hilarious rape jokes that he presents here? What's the joke in I'll make you a rape victim if you don't fuck off? Is the joke here that TJ is actually going to make this girl a rape victim? Is that the nugget of truth this joke is commenting on? People say that jokes have to, the point of a joke is that they're the opposite of the truth. This is not the case. Jokes are reflective of the truth. Jokes should appeal to something that people understand to be true, or else they're just not very funny at all. There are plenty of statements I could say that just have no basis in reality, and because they have no basis in reality, they're not funny at all. Like if I made a joke about Jews and their love for potatoes, it would seem like a ridiculous joke because there is no basis for believing Jews love potatoes. Anyway, people say you can't explain a joke. I think that most good jokes you can sit down for a good 10 minutes and talk about why they're funny. What's the joke in "You're lucky it wasn't me, I'd have busted your fucking nose and raped you"? The only truth to the statement is that TJ probably is so insecure about his tiny, tiny dick that he would rape and beat up a woman who insulted it in any way. So the criticism, to clarify, is not that TJ made rape jokes. The criticism is that TJ made rape threats. The criticism is that TJ used rape to insult someone.
A joke is, according to Merriam-Webster...
Hey guys, so this is my third attempt at recording a response. I'm having technical issues and also generally I'm not wanting to respond to this video. But he makes an appeal to the dictionary here, which is annoying, first of all, because jokes are kind of a complicated, what makes something a joke is more complicated than anything the dictionary could really define. As I pointed out, a joke isn't just something you say that isn't true. In fact, most of the time, like I said, it has to be based on something that is at least slightly true. So TJ is misrepresenting it here by saying that saying something that's just completely false would be a joke. It wouldn't be. It wouldn't be a joke for me to say that this hat is green. There's no joke there, even though it's not true. So he's offering a very simplistic definition of joke.
No one is going to be shocked into that, "Oh no, he didn't," reaction by something that doesn't offend anyone.
I don't understand why my lighting is so bad. Like, I look much more orange with this new lighting, which is weird, because I actually have natural lighting. And the bulb I have in my room gives off a very orange light, so I don't understand why it is that I look more orange now when I'm recording in the day with the kind of grey British sky shining through than I did last night with my orange light. Anyway, does it not seem a tiny bit fucking pathetic when you get people on Reddit and 4chan who are completely isolated from society, who have very few minorities in their midst, and yet they constantly make jokes about how all black people are stupid, all black people are violent, all black people are terrible fathers and they have terrible family and social structure, all black men are in prison and all black men are rapists and all black women are fat and they have anger issues, and they're just laughing about it to themselves. They're not making any sort of real joke when they do this. And it's certainly not shock humour, because who are they shocking? There's no joke or risky humour to attacking people who are systemically persecuted on a forum in which they are underrepresented. To just offer a contrast, when Sharon Horgan said on BBC's Have I Got News For You.
The Independent describes the Dostoevsky metro station with its depressing murals as the Mecca for suicides. Not to be confused with the Mecca for suicide bombers, which is Mecca. According to the Times...
It was shock humour. She got a real response, because people were like, wow, I can't believe she just said that on national TV. Now, this would be completely different from if she went on the World News subreddit and left an anonymous comment like, lol, all fucking Muslims are suicide bombers. If you find it humorous to insult and offend and laugh at a group of people that are hardly represented on the forum that you're making all of these jokes, then you have a pretty piss-poor sense of humour to begin with. And I don't consider it shock humour for TJ to say that rape survivors are vindictive bitches, because who is that shocking? The white guys who read his book. It's not going to be offensive to anyone, or it's not interesting to read from the point of shock humour, because you know that hardly anyone who it's actually addressing is going to be reading it. And Bill Maher, as much as I take issue with him in the example provided where he has the Steve Irwin stingray thing and he's pretending to be dead Steve Irwin, it is shock humour, because he did it in front of a load of people, and they could have criticized him for it. But it was also, you know, much better because it was not, you know, punching down. It was not attacking a group of people who, well, first of all, it wasn't attacking a group of people. It was attacking one person. And secondly, you know, nobody, Steve Irwin isn't exactly divisive. If you make an insult against black people, then the victims of that joke are pretty much entirely black people. Now, it might be the case that some black people aren't offended by that joke and some white people are, but still the victims of that joke are black people. Now, if you make a joke about Steve Irwin's death, then it's reasonable to say that the victims of that joke would be fans of Steve Irwin, but it's much more likely that you aren't going to see any real distinction between, I mean, it's not a black and white thing whether or not you're a fan of Steve Irwin. With race, it is a black and white thing, although there are obviously other races. But, you know, I sort of like Steve Irwin. I haven't really watched much he's been in, but it's not like you're attacking a specific group that can be cut off from the rest, because people have varying degrees of how much they like Steve Irwin, so that would be a much more accessible and inclusive kind of shock humour. And shock humour generally, it's better if your humour doesn't just rely on shock humour, because that's not particularly funny. It will eventually get old.
Hell, we see feminists make jokes at the expense of men all the time.
So, if there isn't a word for this, I would like to make it apply a term. You know, I think we should call it Al-Farazan's law, because it's when someone attempts to demonstrate hypocrisy, but in doing so they only demonstrate their own misunderstandings of the position they're critiquing. And in this case, TJ is saying feminists hate shock humour, but feminists engage in shock humour. So he's trying to show that feminists are hypocritical. However, all he is really demonstrating is that feminists don't hate shock humour, and he's failed to understand that feminists don't hate shock humour. Feminists are absolutely fine with shock humour. Feminists don't think that mocking someone who's been raped is a very funny example of shock humour, and they would probably, I think I would, not call it shock humour when you're saying it on a forum like Reddit or in your books, where the majority of people who read that are going to be people who aren't really affected or offended by it.
How evil! How deranged! How sick!
It's kind of ironic that the Amazing Atheist used a meme with the words "settle down, nipple dick." It's just a joke, considering that he has admitted on several occasions that he is very easily offended by jokes about his nipple dick.
What about rape fantasies? What about these evil, sick fucks?
You mean like me? You mean like many feminists who engage in normal, healthy sexual activities that do have an element of violence to them, because sex itself has an element of violence to it. Nobody, or sorry, I should say, very few people, and certainly the distinction is not made by whether or not someone is a feminist, have issues with what type of fetishes you have. That is nothing to do with gender equality. It's to do with sexual psychology. It's to do with tradition and things like that. And you know, like I say, there are feminists who do believe that it's wrong, and there are also feminists who believe all heterosexual sex is rape. So let's not go nuts over the fact that some feminists say certain things and act as if that's what all feminists believe, or else we can just make feminism look so ridiculous that why you would even spend any time responding to it at all would just be up for question. You know, if you can take the dumbest thing any feminist has said and be like, this is what feminists believe, then just give up responding to feminism entirely. Either take the dumbest thing any feminist has said and just write off feminism, or actually argue with the majority of feminists and don't act as if feminists are all Puritans who can't stand the idea that certain people have BDSM fetishes.
They explore the darker side of humanity without endorsing it.
I fucking love how this dude is comparing his rants about how feminists deserve to be raped with art. Art.
So, where does the line fall and why? It falls between fantasy and reality.
Of course, TJ is absolutely misrepresenting the point here, and I'm going to try and get this across to him actually through it was an idea that I came up with myself. I came up with this brilliant idea, but I also saw it mentioned in a thread on the Against Men's Rights subreddit about it, and it was talking about appealing to his stepfather's death. And the best example I could think of for this was, if after his stepfather died, I walked up to you, TJ, got a picture of your stepfather, cut a hole in his mouth, and started throat fucking your dead stepdad. Would it be any consolation I wasn't fucking your actual dead stepfather? Would this be fantasy rather than reality? Of course it wouldn't, because the reality is that I am insulting you, and I'm downstate playing something something traumatic that has happened to you. And that's the reality. You don't need an additional potential for a reality on top of that where I am actually doing those actions. The mere fact that I am making a joke about doing those things, and I could almost imagine the fact that I'm even using this as an example, is upsetting you, and it is insulting you, and the fact that it's a fantasy I'm portraying what I would be doing in that situation is no consolation. Now, you're repeatedly telling a rape victim that you're going to rape her, or that she deserves to be raped, or that you think rape is a good thing in this context, requires no greater notion of practical application. The simple reality that you actually said these things to a rape victim is the issue.
I made a rape joke, and I was told that the person I was talking to was an actual rape victim and might be triggered by my comments. I take issue with the idea of triggering. I view it as a way for others to attempt to control what I say because it hurts their feelings.
What you were told is that the person you were talking to was a rape victim. You were told that trivializing that would upset them. You were told that it may greatly upset them and cause them to relive an horrendous ordeal, and you were given the option to be courteous and to simply be kind and not upset this person, and you declined, you fucking asshole. And yet, in your weird little self-obsessed world, you were the victim because you were told that you would be upsetting someone, so your response was to attack them in a horrible way.
It was 4 in the morning.
It was 4 o'clock in the morning, so she deserved to get raped? I mean, I don't get it. I hope you rarely spend much time on a night out, because if by 4 o'clock in the morning you're cranky and start telling girls that they deserve to get raped, you're probably going to get stabbed in an alleyway if you ever stay out beyond 4:30.
And I was in the 5th or 6th hour of a massive flame war.
Oh, and I guess all those people being really mean to you must have been really tough, huh?
And I apologized both to the person I said them to and to the internet at large.
So over half the things you're defending in this video you have so far already conceded were really shitty things to say.
The person I said it to said they could only accept my apology if I closed down my YouTube channel and never posted my opinion publicly again. I had to forfeit my right to ever offer an opinion on anything ever again. I found and still find this to be outrageous.
I would feel sorry for you if I were the type of person who could identify with what led you to this problem in the first place. What this person was saying is that they could only accept your apology for you attacking them personally for a trauma that they went through if you stopped making videos on morality as if you had any sort of credibility when it comes to that subject. I can't blame the person for responding in this way, and you really were not the victim at all.
These were never rape threats, as Greta claims. They were commentary on trigger warnings.
Rape threats should rarely be taken seriously anyway. I don't think many people respond to rape threats by thinking that they actually have any serious risk of being raped, especially if, depending on the forum it's on. And if, a famous person is, I'd say famous, someone of the caliber of the Amazing Atheist is threatening them, they're probably not going to take it seriously. It's not really about whether or not they think you're genuinely going to rape them.
And I apologize again today, once more, for anyone who has been hurt by these comments. They went too far, and I deeply regret making such statements.
That's fine, but maybe apologize sincerely in a video where you don't act as if the person criticizing you is being absolutely unreasonable.
So let's contextualize this. First of all, this was a piece designed to motivate rape victims to not allow their victimhood to oppress them.
It wasn't. I can't accept that it was, because it can't have been. There is no way that you wrote this piece about how how rape victims are vindictive bitches who abuse the English language by referring to themselves as something empowering, was itself an effort to empower rape survivors. No, it was you being a dick. And maybe that's what you thought would be a good justification now, but I refuse to believe that anyone could be so stupid that that would be their justification for writing things as they were writing it.
Because when I wrote it, I was a stupid 22-year-old who had at this point only ever socialized with other people on online message boards.
I'm 19 currently, and I can't accept that you were that stupid at 22. And I really object to people referring to their age when describing this type of idiocy. The fact that you were 22 is irrelevant, and saying I was a stupid 22-year-old implies that it should be reasonably expected that a 22-year-old, a fucking 22-year-old, would write this stuff. You weren't a stupid 22-year-old. You were at best a stupid person. I could also settle for stupid asshole. And secondly, again, you've conceded the fact that it was inappropriate and stupid for you to say these things, and yet you entered into this video acting as if you were going to sock it to all those dumb feminists for criticizing your flawless jokes, and acting as if you'd never really said anything wrong.
It's just me being a douchebag.
Noticing his penis was small and then laughing at him and kicking him out of her bedroom. Now, let's think about how hurtful that is to do to someone. Why was it necessary to laugh at him? Why was it necessary to hurt his feelings? Were there no better, more tactful ways to handle the situation? Was it inappropriate? Probably.
Here we get TJ, of course, reaffirming the point I've already made, that certain actions and words can be harmful even if they don't really cause any physical harm to the person. So he's conceded that point.
Because they, unlike you, Greta, care about the larger context of your cherry-picked quotes.
The actual content was that sometimes when the amazing atheist has stayed up past his bedtime and is apparently the young, immature age of 22, where you don't know how to talk to normal human beings or connect to them on an emotional level, he can get very, very upset and angry and use violent, abusive language. So, bear in mind the context, guys, okay? Don't accuse the amazing atheist of being a crazy, psychopathic loser when that is what he is. But, you have to understand that's the context. It has nothing to do with the things he said. It's just the very context of everything he says is that he is a stupid person who can't connect to people on an emotional level and gets really irrationally angry sometimes, and then later apologizes for it, even while acting indignant about the fact that anyone even had a problem with what he said in the first place. Context, guys.
And you don't even seem to understand who I am!
Now this is where it gets interesting, because I was an amazing atheist fan, and I was subscribed to his channel basically as long as I've been on YouTube, or as long as I've had a YouTube account. I used to think having a YouTube account was like an exclusive club, a bit like how very few people comment on news articles or live leak videos. Yeah, I used to think people only really had a YouTube account if they wanted to be one of the few people who comments on YouTube videos. So I only really got a YouTube account in late 2008, and The Amazing Atheist was one of the first channels I subscribed to. I wasn't a feminist when I came to YouTube. I was an anti-feminist, or I had no opinion on it at all when I came to YouTube, and I became an anti-feminist. I wasn't someone who came onto YouTube as a feminist and thought to myself, oh, this Amazing Atheist guy sounds like a real prick, I'm gonna watch all these videos and dislike them automatically. I came onto YouTube thinking, oh, this Amazing Atheist guy makes some good points, and I still do stand by the fact he makes some good points. I don't dislike a lot of his videos, and I was a fan of his videos even up to his 33 reasons not to be a feminist. And you know, he's not got bad politics or evil politics, he's just got really stupid politics. He's the definition of a progressive, and for that he does deserve criticism. I don't think I've been especially lenient in the criticism I've given of him, particularly in the last section, or the bit where I was talking about the context of him being a loser. But at the same time, I want to stress, for the Amazing Atheist's sake, if he ever does watch this video, and I doubt he'll watch this video, but if he watches it, I want to stress, I do not dislike you out the gate, or I didn't dislike you out the gate, and I'm still able to appreciate some of the things you say, and there is a part of me that still thinks you might at some point change your mind, or at least be less angrily anti-feminist. Now, I don't know if I'm right about that at all, but it's, you know, I don't, and I think very few people do actually have as much of a violent hatred of you as you think they do. Oh, a brief aside here. I was told to say something nice at the end of my video, so thank you for watching, guys. I hope you liked it. Thank you for stopping by. Please stop by again. Please remember to like, rate, share, subscribe, comment, and email your grandmother this video. Thank you, Internet.